I'm Vegas Runner, here breaking down MMA with you once again. We have UFC 131 Saturday night live from Canada. I did an earlier video where I isolated 4 bets on the prelims, which is the undercard, and the Spike TV card, as well as the main card where I thought we were able to isolate 4 chalk plays that still offered value and when tied up in a parlay should be able to sweep the board. But right now we're going to go to the premium play, my very best bet for UFC 131. And like usual, it comes in the main event. Don't want to disappoint the fans out there, so I was willing to step up, put it on the line for the biggest fight of the night. That's Junior Dos Santos, Shane Carwin. This is a huge fight as the winner gets to face Cain Velasquez for the UFC heavyweight title. So big implications for the winner in this one. Bottom line, we're seeing this line drop. It opened with Dos Santos at a much higher favorite than we're seeing as we go to this video. Right now, he's sitting at around 160, and I think that's going to drop some more because all I'm hearing is Carwin is a live dog. I'm here to save you some money because he's anything but a live dog in this fight. Let me explain. Coming into this fight, we're now 12-3 on our last 15 boxing and MMA bets, 7-3 in our last 10 UFC bets. And this is my very best bet for Saturday, and it's Junior Dos Santos minus the 160 or better. Dos Santos, currently undefeated in the UFC, comes in with a 6-0 record. More importantly, his 5 previous fights, 4 by first round KO, but his last fight against Nelson really showed us a lot because he went the distance. He went 3 rounds. And I know a lot of guys saw that and said, maybe he doesn't have power. Maybe he's not as powerful as we thought he was. Maybe his boxing isn't as deadly as we thought he was. But I think in Nelson's last fight against Frank Mir, we saw that this guy is just a punching bag. You could hit him, and he's really not going to go anywhere. So Dos Santos, if anything, was able to show me that if this fight gets in the deeper waters, he's the guy I want to be backing. That's where my money wants to be. When you look at Carwin, I can't say that about him. His last fight, last 4th of July weekend, I remember because I was there at the MGM Grand when he fought Brock Lesnar. I had a bet on Lesnar, and I remember screaming, don't call the fight, don't call the fight. Carwin was dropping blows, but you saw they were coming down slower and slower with each punch. Fortunately, they allowed it to go to a second round, and Lesnar went on to submit him and beat Carwin. And we all know since then, Carwin has been on the shelf, not because he's wanted to be, but because health problems have forced him to be. He's had to undergo 2 surgeries since last July. That's going to be huge in this fight. Let's not forget, when you look at Carwin, this was supposed to be a comeback fight for him, but not against Dos Santos. And as our producer Dustin just said before we went on camera, and I agree with him 100%, when you look at this matchup, it's Carwin who has to change his game plan, not Dos Santos. Dos Santos was getting ready to fight Lesnar. Now, in place of Lesnar, he's got to face Carwin. If anything, it's going to be the exact same game plan, except an easier fight. Because with Lesnar, you're not exactly sure what you're going to get because I think his wrestling is so dominant. He's such a big man. And if he grabs a hold of you, it's tough to get free. Carwin, on the other hand, he's had to change what he's doing. He was totally getting ready for another fight. Now he's facing Dos Santos. So huge edge there for Dos Santos. More importantly, staying on that, Carwin was supposed to get a tune-up fight. That tells me his camp, himself personally, didn't think he was ready for a title shot, didn't think he was ready for a #1 contender fight, so he was going to get a tune-up fight. And now he's being thrown in against Junior Dos Santos, who is anything but a tune-up fight. I just think anywhere this fight goes, advantage Dos Santos. Now I hear Carwin, live dog, live dog, live dog. I'm hearing MMA fans. I'm hearing MMA guys who break down fights. I'm hearing the sports radio shows. Everyone's falling in love with Carwin, and that's why we're seeing this line drop. I don't see how he could win this fight. Boxing, huge edge Dos Santos. Technical striker, huge edge Dos Santos. Power, I think it's going to be close. Let's not forget, this isn't going to be the 265-pound Carwin we've gotten used to seeing. This is going to be a much smaller, slimmer version of Carwin, who's dropped 30 pounds. If anything, his biggest asset, which was his power, should be negated some after dropping 30 pounds. So I really think that's a huge advantage for Dos Santos, who will be able to exchange with him. So what's Carwin going to do when he sees that he can't take the stand-up fight? He's going to try to take it to the ground. Bad move. Dos Santos, 89% takedown defense, meaning out of every 10 times someone's tried to take him down, 9 were not successful. And I don't think Carwin's going to be successful. If anything, he's going to eat a lot of punches to attempt those takedowns. And I think that's going to force him to, once again, change his game plan and now step off. And Dos Santos will have the option of going to deeper waters, testing the cardio of Shane Carwin, which we know already. He's already made those excuses that he has that disease that somehow stops him from having that cardio he should have. We heard the excuses, and I'm not saying, you know, the guy doesn't have that, but the bottom line is, what you're telling me is that there is something physically wrong, that if you can't knock someone out in the first round, physically, it becomes a problem for you. So that's definitely not something I want to back with my money. Because if this gets in the second or third round, huge edge Dos Santos. Bottom line, any way you look at this, huge edge Dos Santos. Whether he pushes the pace, whether he uses his power, whether he uses his technique, any way you look at this, advantage Dos Santos. In the price, minus 160. Should go to minus 150. My true line, Dos Santos should be a minus 250 favorite over Carwin. So that has best bet, premium play, call it what you will, written all over it. Bottom line, Carwin has one way to attack this fight, and that's in a clinch. And if he was 265, he would have a shot to do so. But at this weight, and with Dos Santos' height advantage, he will not be able to do the one thing that would have given him a shot in this fight. Finally, if this gets to the ground, advantage Dos Santos. He trains with Nogueira brothers, so please don't tell me we know nothing about his Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Like Dustin said, he's Brazilian, for God's sakes. He knows how to ground fight. He learned how to box. He was born a ground fighter. He evolved as a boxer. So I don't want to hear his Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, his ground game has not been tested. It hasn't been tested because no one's been able to test it. And I don't think Carwin will be able to test it. If he is one of those 10 guys who are able to take him down, then we may very well see a submission in the favor of Junior Dos Santos. Shane Carwin, 4-1 in the UFC. He will drop to 4-2 in the UFC. His handlers should not have allowed him to take this fight. His pride got in the way. All that talk about, give me a shot, I deserve a shot, I deserve a shot. Dana stepped up and said, you know what? Time to shut you up, pal. Feed him to the lions. We will see Dos Santos, Cain Velasquez. Huge fight down the road. Ask yourselves, why put Carwin in the place of Brock Lesnar? Why? Because Dos Santos will have an easy night of it. Will go on to fight Velasquez. That'll be huge for the UFC. Let's step up. Let's back the 27-year-old over the 36-year-old. I'm personally going to be 40 very soon. And I can tell you, I didn't feel the same at 36 than I did at 27. So we have an aging fighter against a fighter in his prime. I could go on forever, but I'm sure you don't want to keep listening to me. Instead, I'll end it with this. Any way you look at this fight, Dos Santos walks out a winner. Whether it be knockout, decision, submission, TKO, it doesn't matter. Easy money. Lay the 150, 160, regardless of the price. You're still getting the best of it. Ton of value on Dos Santos. That's my best bet for UFC 131. Putting it on the line in the main event. Don't forget, check out the other video and get 4 easy winners in the undercard. Also mixed in some main events in that one too. Thanks again for tuning in. Let's up that record in UFC and MMA a little more, fellas. Thanks again. Back with Strikeforce next week.